A Tale of Two Top Guns. So my wife and I decided to bite the bullet and watch the latest Top Gun Maverick this week, and we happened to see on the service right after that the original Top Gun from 1986 was also on there. I want to talk about that today on the show. It's the New England Take. I'm your host, AJ Kierstead. TheNewEnglandTake.com to get more from the show, and follow New England Take on Facebook and Twitter. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel too. All our episodes are being posted there as videos, and trying to get some more followers there, so like and subscribe if you're over on that service. So I've been seeing for months the Top Gun Maverick, and people who are pretty cynical on the movie industry were giving like, oh, this is pretty cool, we like this. And I was like, I really got to see it at some point. And I was waiting for the streaming services to get it, and Paramount Plus has it. Here's the deal. Get the 1 week free trial of Paramount Plus and check out Maverick if you feel so inclined. I think it's worth it. It's basically the only other thing Paramount Plus has going for it is they own Star Trek, so all the TV series is on there, and they have Yellowstone, which has gone totally viral of late. It's a Western-based IP, so they've begun to do some prequels. So now there's an 1823 and a 1923 series. So we started to check out the 1923 one with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. It's not bad, at least for the pilot. But that's the only reason why I suggest anyone checks out Paramount Plus. But aside from that, getting into the content of it, Maverick was cool. Like, I thought it was great. Like, the story is. It has a story to it. It's not some dumb thing where they kind of sort of follow along with what they're trying to do. It's like, no, there's an actual story of Tom Cruise's character coming back to Top Gun, and Maverick needs to lead a bunch of young fighters to do an impossible, possibly suicidal mission. They did a great job with it, and I gotta say it really made the case for practical effects. That's for sure. All the flights looked amazing. Like, obviously some of it had to be CGI, but I mean, I couldn't tell what was CGI if they do have it. They did such an amazing job on it. The flights are a lot more intense, and we'll discuss comparing that to the 1986 version of the movie, because I think there's a huge difference between the two. And Tom Cruise is 60 years old. The guy could pass for 50. The guy looks amazing. He's still able to do these action parts, and it's believable, and his acting was great. I think Tom Cruise has gotten better at acting as he got older. Even in his younger years, he always came across as smug, is the way I put it. Like, I love Eyes Wide Shut. It's an amazing film. I'm a huge Stanley Kubrick fan, and he just comes across as smug and terrible. I know that's kind of the role he's supposed to be playing, but it feels way too natural. Maybe it's me just overly judging it. What's her name again? Jennifer Connelly was also amazing in it as another person that passes for 15 years younger than her age. She's a great female like love interest for it, but she's kind of a side character. She's not terribly vital, but of course it's Hollywood. They got to have a love interest since the spinoff. Kelly McGillis isn't there anymore in the movies. She dumps him in the first movie. Spoiler, you've had the 36 years to watch Top Gun. So she's not in the movie anymore. So they brought in another woman to play the love interest, and she did a pretty good job. I didn't think it was bad, but I mean, the cast was great. They did a good job. John Hamm plays the hard ass colonel that's supposed to be making sure they're doing their job, and or the admiral actually. He did a pretty good job. And Charles Parnell was underneath John Hamm and just plays Charles Parnell. He always plays the aged older guy that knows what he's doing and is the more human side of it, as opposed to the more kind of, you don't know how backstabbing John Hamm's character is supposed to be. But so the story was good. The crew of young pilots did a good job, with Miles Teller playing the Lieutenant Rooster, which he did a good job. He's a little whiny, but he played the part well. I highly suggest you check out Maverick just for the flight sequences alone. If you're into action movies, the cinematography is amazing. Like, I can't get over it. And I gotta also say, thank God they updated the soundtrack. The soundtrack it's traditional soundtrack. It's modern day movie soundtrack. I'm sure people that are into soundtracks hate it because I don't even notice it. But compared to the old movies, let's just dive into the older movie from 1986. The soundtrack does not hold up, man. If you're into 80s pop songs and ballads, I mean, you might very well love it. That's probably the biggest thing to date that movie. Is the Danger Zone, and there's the love song that's repeated about 15 times. They must have really run out of soundtrack money at that point, but it didn't. That was disappointing. It's funny seeing the difference in the cinematography between the two, and how much, I guarantee, a lot of the difference in the flight scenes comes down to technology. And this still end of Cold War era. I'm not sure how much access they necessarily had to utilize military technology or older military technology for the film, because the fighter jets have been around for decades and decades at this point. And that's kind of the deal. Is the new movie, they're using the same jets that were in the first movie, and it works out probably because they're able to do a lot more with them, because they're older, they're not worth as much probably. But it was. Modern cinematography has just gone gangbusters, and you see what you can do with these little tiny cameras and mounted to these jets, or I guarantee there's tons of drone photography that's also utilized for it, and it's breathtaking. As someone that's into photography and videography, you'll love it if you're into that sort of thing and all, and it keeps the intensity up. This big thing also is the intensity with Maverick is kept up through the movie. Like, you feel like we're going somewhere. The first one kind of meanders a bit. I found the story isn't as cohesive. It seems a little tacky. With the flight school they go to is called Top Gun, which is definitely an 80s thing, and they kind of quickly gloss over it in Maverick, so it doesn't stand out quite as much. And the first movie very much also centers around Tom Cruise's Maverick, the character he plays, a lot more on the love interest and such, as opposed to the mission at hand. Because the first movie, the entire movie, we were expecting some, like, oh no, when's the big deal? When there's the big war thing that causes the conflict, the reason why they're doing this. That's not the situation with the first movie. The first movie is entirely taking place at this Top Gun, this academy for the best Air Force pilots that they can get, and that's the entire movie. Like, there's one mission at the very end where Maverick gets his groove back, so to speak, after his buddy dies, and that's it. Like, it's the very finale of the movie that happens, and you get the corny, all the flight crews clapping for them and cheering them on as they get back on the flight deck, which was entertaining. But it doesn't hold up as well. I mean, definitely check it out. And I think it's especially funny if you watch Maverick first, because I think it holds up better, and your energy will be a little more up before you go and watch the original Top Gun, which I think a lot of people just like it for nostalgia purposes. Like, here's the deal with me. The movie came out a year before I was born. I was born in 1987. This movie was 1 year old before I was even brought about on this planet, and I just not into those sorts of movies. 80s action films aren't my thing, but it doesn't have the whole, as much of the buddy cop thing that you expect from a lot of those sorts of movies, because Maverick is kind of on his own, even though he does have his friend that's also there. But it's kind of a different. It does hold up a little better from that perspective. Like the dialogue and stuff, I feel like is a little bit better. But the new one, I just think is definitely worth checking out. So go over and get your mediocre Paramount Plus trial. Check that out. Maybe check out some of Yellowstone, because we've watched the pilot of the first series, watched the pilot of 1923, and they're both pretty good. And I think we're gonna continue to watch that. So maybe we'll do an episode on that down the road. But Maverick is a pretty good movie. It's not gonna be a life-changing thing. It's not gonna be a classic, but it's worthwhile if you're into action movies. It's New England Take. I'm your host, AJ Kiersa. Be sure to check out the newenglandtake.com. Also, be sure to check out the New England Take. Airs Fridays at 6 p.m. on WKXL in Concord and Manchester, 1450 AM and 103.9 FM and 101.9 FM if you're in Manchester for that last frequency. We'll be back next week.